This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. In his current role as the Director of Technology for Keycode Media, Michael Kammes consults in the latest in technology and best practices in digital media, and I'm delighted to say he's also a regular on the Buzz. Hello, Michael. Welcome back.
Hi, Larry. Good evening. How are you?
I am delighted to be talking to you. It's been a while, but, getting you to say stay still is really tough. I mean, you're here now, but now you're leaving for the editor's retreat in like scant seconds. What's the editor's retreat, and why are you going?
Well, the editor's retreat is a gathering of excellent editors from all around the country and the world, and to talk about technology, but not just technology. It's more so based on creation, best practices for editing, how to craft those certain scenes, and I'm lucky enough to be invited to speak there on cloud-based editing technology.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Cloud-based editing technology.
That's almost like an oxymoron, isn't it? Cloud-based and editing don't belong in the same sentence. What are you talking about?
Well, it's the ability to edit where you want, when you want. So you no longer have to go to those ugly square edit bays that are dimly lit. You now can sit on your couch, or as I do, sit on my couch with my puppy and edit, and sit in my comfy slippers and enjoy my house while I can edit.
So let me get this straight. What you're allowing editors to do is to edit wherever they want without tying them to the edit bay, but that really requires access to your media just about anywhere, which means how do we manage to make that work?
It's very difficult, but yes, the holy grail is to be able to sit where you want, when you want, and edit. And there's a couple different ways to do that. We have the traditional cloud paradigm, and when I say cloud, I mean someone else's storage in the cloud, and you upload your media there, and then you edit in a browser, which is notoriously lacking in terms of feature set. Then we also have the more robust methodologies, which is the media sits at home base, and you sit at home and you pull the media from your home base. And that's when you get to use tools like Avid and Adobe. Then we have kind of hybrid models like Avid that also has Media Composer UX, which allows you to edit in a browser, but still using the media back at the mothership.
Well, it sounds to me, up until you used the word Avid, it sounded to me like you were describing Adobe Anywhere, which is a server-based ability to feed, I don't want to say proxies, but feed your media anywhere. Is this what we're talking about here?
That's what the most common methodology is, and both Avid and Adobe have similar technologies, which is where the media sits at your data center, usually within the four walls of your facility, and it goes through a traditional local editorial process, logging, etc. But the editors can then take their laptops and go remote and log in to the media locally, log into the media from remote as if they were local, and then edit that media, which is streamed to their system in real time.
Are they working with proxy files? How are they able to get access to the media and have a good enough image they can make editorial decisions? I'm not saying master quality, but good enough.
That's where it gets a little tricky and where it varies from solution to solution. If we look at Adobe Anywhere is always looking at the high-res media, and in real time is using the Mercury playback engine, what they call the Mercury streaming engine, to actually generate these proxies on the fly. So it's not a low-res, high-res relink methodology. It's actually just a low-res file that's being created on the fly. So you're not dealing with two different types of files. When we deal with Avid, Avid has a couple different variants that they can stream to your system in real time. So that does have a little bit of an online-offline methodology.
Now, you're using the word streaming in both cases. Originally, you talked about the fact that we could store the files on a cloud server somewhere, access them via a browser, but the interface and the response time is pretty bad. But both Avid and Adobe are streaming. Does that solve some of the security issues of having access to the media, preventing access to people that shouldn't have authorized access to it?
Well, there comes a point in time where there's diminishing returns. I mean, how many times has YouTube tried to prevent people from downloading files and people still get to them? So there's, a point of diminishing returns for doing that. Both Avid and Adobe have rules set in place that may prevent the end user from exporting a file. Will that stop a user from using a screen recording application and recording something? No, it's not going to stop them at all.
No, my fault.
But go ahead.
It's a really good answer, but it's the wrong question. I'm much more concerned about security of the dailies. Think of the Harry Potter movies or Star Wars, where security was everything on making sure people didn't see the movie before it was released. How do you prevent unauthorized access to the raw footage that's part of the editorial process?
Well, there's two ways. One is internet abstinence, which is you simply don't use remote editorial for these kind of films. I don't think even in 10 years, when another Star Wars prequel or sequel comes out, that they're going to allow remote editing. There's just too many things to take in consideration for security. But on lower, I shouldn't say lower, but on I shouldn't say less important. On projects where the security isn't as high, you can use things like VPN, right? A VPN is a virtual private network, and it allows a secure handshake between your local machine and the mothership. And that can kind of weed out unwarranted and unscrupulous folks. But the best practice is, at the end of the day, internet abstinence, and don't have your machines online.
Okay, so for projects which are not highly security conscious, what are we trading off for remote editing as opposed to coming to the edit bay and being able to access our masters directly?
Usually, Larry, it's latency. So the delay between a key press and what you're seeing on the screen. And editors are all about speed. And a lot of times when latency is introduced, there can be hell to pay because I don't get that immediate gratification of playback. And when you're sitting across the country, there can be latency in there. So there has to be the expectation of a slight delay when we look at these full complete systems. There's also little things like some of your filters may not be on both systems, some fonts may not be there. So you have to understand that because you get to sit in your fuzzy slippers on your warm, comfortable couch, there's going to be some performance trade-offs for the time being.
While your dog keeps you company.
Yes.
When is remote editing appropriate? When would you recommend it?
Right now, I'm a big fan of it for predators. So those folks who are producers and editors who want to do string outs or logging or non-complex editorial. The pre-edit, as it were. And I think that's a fantastic way to start using these tools because you don't need a robust tool set. You just need to see it and log it. I think for unscripted television, where you are doing string outs of scenes and logging an immense amount of footage, I think that's the sweet spot right now.
What hardware do we need to pull this off?
Well, because there's a couple different methodologies, if we're looking at the more traditional Avid Interplay or Avid Everywhere and the Adobe Anywhere, we're looking at the traditional systems that you would need to run the software locally. Because at the end of the day, you are still running that software locally. You're just pulling the media from a remote location. So you're going to need, and I hope I don't annoy any of your sponsors by saying this, but you're going to need 80 to 100 grand. I mean, it's going to start there. There's no way around that. You'll need a system that's capable of running your Premiere or your Avid system, and you'll need a decent internet connection. Editing at your coffee shop, not so much right now. You're probably going to need a good 40 to 50 megabits a second for a decent picture.
Wait, say that internet bandwidth again?
40 to 50 megabits a second, which would be a cable modem running to your house. That's pretty common.
Michael, I was just thinking, there's got to be more than one way to do remote or cloud-based editing. Are there typical ways that we can do this?
Yeah, there's three main ways as I see it. There's the more traditional cloud editing paradigm, which is all your media is sitting in a third-party data center and you edit in a browser. That's the best way I can think of just to describe it. Pure cloud editing, someone else's cloud. The second one would be remote editing, which is slightly different, and that's where the media actually sits in your data center, usually within your facility, and then when you're sitting at home editing, you're pulling everything via the internet from your mothership, from your office, as opposed to a third-party hosted cloud. And that media can either be high-res or low-res, depending on what solution you're working with. Another solution I find very interesting, and Michael Bay actually used it on Transformers, is something by Teradici, and that uses the PCOIP methodology, the PC over IP. And your viewers out there may be familiar with TeamViewer and Remote Desktop, and it's very similar to that, only Teradici has hardware on both ends and make sure your color is good, you have sustained frame rate, the audio is good, so it's like you're sitting in front of your bay, only you have a terminal at your house. So it's almost a throwback to the 70s and the mainframe topology.
I was thinking the same thing. Mainframes have reared their ugly heads, except now they're on laptops.
Completely.
Michael, is this beta technology or is it being used in real life?
It's a balance of both. If we look a few years ago, a company called a company called Forbidden has a product called Foreseen, which is actually editing in a browser, and all the media is in the cloud. That was used extensively with the Olympics several years ago. Avid Interplay, also known as Avid Everywhere, since it's closely tied into newsroom automation, it's being used quite a bit for string outs and remote shoots and whatnot. That being said, Adobe Anywhere is only 2 years old, and other solutions are still being beta tested right now to find out what can work in a real world environment and what's just a pipe dream.
You know, I'd love to sit in on this session at Editor's Retreat. It sounds fascinating. For people that can attend, where can they go on the web to learn more?
They can go to editorsretreat.com, or they can follow me on Twitter, and I'll have all the information there, and that's at Michael Kammes.
And do you have a website people should pay attention to?
That same name, michaelkammes.com.
And the Michael Kammes himself is the Director of Technology for Keycode Media and about to catch a plane heading east. Michael, thanks for joining us today, and I wish you safe travels and have a wonderful speech.
Thanks, Larry. See you next time.
If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. To stay connected and receive updates from The Buzz, sign up for our free weekly newsletter now. Or you can learn more about us on our website. And thanks for watching The Digital Production Buzz.